Welcome back to the next episode of Planks Audio. We have a continuation of the Samantha and Peter story from League. First, the bad news. I've lost my piano. I don't know where it is, so as a substitute.
One pretty teapot ready for some tea. 2 little cups for you and me. 3 tasty cakes for us to eat. We can pour some tea and have a treat.
Santa's cookies, Samantha says in a muffled voice as Peter throws her against the wall in the supply closet. The small of her back is exposed and she feels a slight but familiar chill of the wall as she rubs up and down against it. This was a familiar feeling, at least 3 times a week, sometimes more if Peter had worn something tighter to the office that day. She was honest. One time he had ate a salad vigorously and she was riding him like a bucking bronco moments later in the very closet. He begins to thrust his powerful hips harder as she continues to clench her jaws and focus on controlling her screams. The loud clap of his crotch against hers was a problem, but she didn't want the world to hear her scream "Kazoo!" as she came. She moans as for a second she was distracted, and she begins to centre herself by grabbing the back of his head and kissing her lover. His pace quickens as her legs tighten around his waist. Peter moans as he uses his socks to perk his body up to drive himself deeper. She is about to come as she reaches for the shelf bracket, but instead grabs the stapler. I knew the stapler was there, she thinks, remembering back to the day she couldn't find the replacement. This discovery will change her whole week, and she's excited for it. Peter pounds her with the force of the Weeknd's new album as he comes. "Did you go?" he asks, catching his breath, as she wears a look of horror. "I didn't," she says, trembling. Here was this Adonis of a man giving her otherworldly pleasure as she was sitting here thinking about her fucking stapler. "That's okay," he says as he places her down and falls to his knees. He gently spreads her legs as his tongue gracefully explores her vagina. She grabs her nipples through her blouse as she begins to moan again. "You know all my spots," she says, giggling, as the thoughts of the stapler enters her again. What colour will it be? She wonders, slapping herself to remain focused. What the fuck is wrong with me? She thinks as her mouth widens to let out a soft moan. His tongue batters her clitoris as she clenches his hair. "Fuck, I'm going to come," she whispers as his tongue powers through her. "Cheese souffle," she screams as her hips quiver with her orgasm. "You really know all my spots," she says as she looks at him, wearing a soft look of disappointment. "I think this has to end," she says. "What? Why?" Peter demands while standing wiping her off his chin. This is just the same. It was fun and new, but it's becoming familiar," she responds somberly. "Then I want more," he says confidently. "I want you. I always have," he continues. "Go for dinner with me." "Let's make this something," he asks. Samantha looks at his chiseled behemoth of a man who seconds before was powering himself deep inside her. She gently grabs his streak, stroking it with a smile, and responds, "No." To be continued.